Let's start with the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Let's do some Radha jap. Radha, Shri Radha, Radha, Shri Radha, Radha, Shri Radha. We are reading Bhagavad Geeta as it is by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We are in chapter 13. O son of Pratha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Let's read the purport. In this verse, the description of the Mahatma is clearly given. The first sign of the Mahatma is that he is already situated in the divine nature. He is not under the control of material nature. And how is this effective? That is explained in the 7th chapter. One who surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, at once becomes freed from the control of material nature. That is the qualification. One can become free from the control of material nature as soon as he surrenders his soul to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the preliminary formula. Being marginal potency, as soon as the living entity is freed from the control of material nature, he is put under the guidance of the spiritual nature. So once you are freed from the material world, like while living in the material world, you are freed from the control of the material nature, is when you have completely surrendered to the God, you attain a marginal potency. Now that potency is guided in spiritual nature. Okay? It is put under the guidance of spiritual nature. So the guidance of the spiritual nature is called Daivi Prakriti or divine nature. So when one is promoted in that way, by surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one attains to the stage of great soul. It is Mahatma. Yes. So for example, if all your senses you are able to control with your mind, and you're reaching a phase where you're even able to control your mind, intelligence, and false ego, your false ego is also under control. You are somewhat reaching a phase where you become divine. Yeah, you can feel some of the traits of spiritual nature because everyone who stays in spiritual world is divine by default, right? The Mahatma does not divert his attention to anything outside Krishna because he knows perfectly well that Krishna is the only supreme person, the cause of all causes. There is no doubt about it. Such a Mahatma, a great soul, develops through association with other Mahatmas, pure devotees. Pure devotees are not even attracted by Krishna's other features, such as the four-armed Mahavishnu. They are simply attracted by two-armed form of Krishna. They are not attracted to other features of Krishna, nor are they concerned with any form of a demigod or of a human being. They meditate only upon Krishna in Krishna consciousness. They are always engaged in unswerving service of the Lord in Krishna consciousness. So they don't think about Krishna as, oh, he's so great and he's so this, he's so that. Even all of that doesn't matter to them. So when you are in surrender to someone, you don't look at that person's highness or lowness, because that doesn't form a premise for you to surrender, right? So surrender is that you surrender in to someone who 100% is this, that it doesn't affect you what that person is all about, or what that person does, what that person doesn't do, what are his bad qualities, what are his good qualities. Nothing matters, because you're already in surrender. अब जो होगा देखा जाएगा, or like that. Let's move to text 14. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. Let's read the purport. The Mahatma cannot be manufactured by rubber stamping an ordinary man. His symptoms are described here. A Mahatma is always engaged in chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. He has no other business. He is always engaged in the glorification of the Lord. In other words, he is not an impersonalist. When the question of glorification is there, one has to glorify the Supreme Lord, praising his holy name, his eternal form, his transcendental qualities, and his uncommon pastimes. One has to glorify all these things. Therefore, a Mahatma is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he only glorifies. He glorifies how great he is. He glorifies him. He's and he's following him. So he glorifies that person whom you are surrendered to, right? You are, there is one thing which brings you to surrender to that person. And because of that thing, and that thing is glorification. That thing is thinking about that person all the time, doing everything what that person will like. That is called glorification, right? One who is attached to the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord, the Brahma Jyoti, is not described as Mahatma in Bhagavad Gita. He is described in a different way in the next verse. The Mahatma is always engaged in different activities of devotional service, as described in Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing and chanting about Vishnu, not a demigod or a human being. This is devotion. That is devotion. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnoha, and Smaranam, remembering him. Such a Mahatma has firm determination to achieve at the ultimate end the association of the Supreme Lord in any one of the 5 transcendental rasas. To achieve that success, he engages all activities, mental, bodily, and vocal, everything in the service of the Supreme Lord. That is called full Krishna consciousness. Yes. In devotional service, there are certain activities which are called determined, such as fasting on certain days, like the 11th day of the month, that is Ekadashi, and on the appearance of the Lord. All these rules and regulations are offered by the great acharyas for those who, who are actually interested in getting admission into the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the transcendental world. The Mahatmas, great souls, strictly observe all these rules and regulations, and therefore they are sure to achieve the desired results. As described in the second verse of this chapter, Not only is this devotional service easy, but it can be performed in a happy mood. Yes. One does not need to undergo any severe penance and austerity. Yes. So you might have seen many people taking up lot of pain, bodily pain, mental pain, you know, just to prove that they are devotional, just to prove that they can do it, just to prove. So many people do this on their own account, and many people do this on account of the others to prove the others that they are worthy of getting admitted in whatever learnings that they are here to offer. But Krishna consciousness can be performed without such penance and austerities, without such fasting, without such, you know, um, how do I say, um, pain, right? And it can be performed in happy mood. Like you don't want to be in pain when you want to remember your God. You want to be happy. You want to feel happy, energetic. You want to feel as if you are with Him and you are protected by Him. And most of us, when we surrender to Krishna just in our head, you will find lot of thoughts coming to you as if they are guiding you to something. There are a lot of downloads happening every single day. And the minute you are surrendered to Krishna or God of your faith, you will start becoming aware of these downloads even more. And then you are even more, you will notice that you are more happier. Life is just a flow. You don't feel stuck anywhere. And you don't feel that you are missing out on something or you did not achieve something. You just love your life because life is something that God has gifted you. That itself is something to celebrate. So you start celebrating your life, your journey, your ways without feeling inferior or without feeling complex or anything. Because see, everybody's life is their own. You cannot have somebody else's life in yours, right? You cannot imitate that life. So everyone's life is unique and it is to their own accords, right? So there is no, so you feel you kind of come to a realization that there was never a need to compare. In fact, there was a need to feel grateful for having such a beautiful life, and that too a life of a human being, not like a life of a dog. If we were an animal, we would not even have reached any kind of awareness, except for few animals like elephants, crows, snakes. They do have some kind of awareness which is higher than an animal. But apart from these, no. He can live this life in devotional service, guided by an expert spiritual master, and in any position, either as a householder or a sannyasi or a brahmachari, in any position and anywhere in the world, he can perform his devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus become actually Mahatma, a great soul. Yes. And slowly, when you become Mahatma, you start getting the qualities of a divine soul. You start becoming more and more generous, more and more of assistance, more and more caring, more and more loving, you know. And that's the whole point. Text 15. Others who engage in sacrifice by the cultivation of knowledge worship the Supreme Lord as the one without a second, as diverse in many and in the universal form. Yes. Now we are understanding of the people who worship the God by taking up that pain and taking up that austerity, like fasting. Let's read the purport. This verse is the summary of the previous verses. The Lord tells Arjun that those who are purely in Krishna consciousness do not know anything other than Krishna are called Mahatma. Yet there are other persons who are not exactly in the position of Mahatma but who worship Krishna also in different ways. Some of them have already been. So you see, they have not discarded anybody who worships Krishna. Even if you worship in any form, the minute you start worshipping the God, you become important. Yes. Some of them have already been described as the distressed, the financially destitute, the inquisitive, and those who are engaged in the cultivation of knowledge. But there are others, but there are others who are still lower, and these are divided into three. Yeah. So after these four people, there are three more kinds of people who worship God. One, he who worships himself as one with the Supreme Lord. So he thinks that he is the Supreme Lord and he starts worshipping himself. Second, he who concocts some form of the Supreme Lord and worships that. Okay. Then, so these are the people who make an imaginary God and start worshipping. And then third are the one who accepts the universal form, the Vishwaroop of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and worships that. Okay. So universal form of Krishna, they worship that form. These are considered as lower, further low. Okay. Out of the above three, the lowest, those who worship themselves as Supreme Lord, thinking themselves to be monist and most predominant. So the lowest amongst the three is the one who thinks that he is God. Such people think themselves to be the Supreme Lord, and in this mentality, they worship themselves. They say God sabke andar hai, you know, and they also make women worship their husbands. They think husband is Paramatma, Parmeshwar. This is all wrong ideology. This is also a type of God worship, for they can understand that they are not the material body but are actually spiritual soul. At least such a sense is prominent. At least they think of themselves as spiritual. Right? You must have seen this movie, I think Maharaj. No, it was on Netflix, where there is one person who considers himself, where the entire village considers him as an avatar of God, and he keeps having sex with all the young girls who have just attained puberty, uh, and that is considered to be divine, in the village. And it is considered to be as if you have surrendered and you will reach some divine world and things like that. And then there was this lawyer who interferes and he wins the case. He files a case against this Maharaj saying that he is not God, but under the pretext of being God, he is having fun. He is having sex. So that reminds me of this point that they start considering themselves as God. But even if when they are considered themselves as God, they are at least considering themselves to have a spiritual soul, right? Generally, the impersonalists worship the Supreme Lord in this way. The second class includes the worshippers of the demigods, those who by imagination consider any form to be the form of the Supreme Lord. And the third class includes those who cannot conceive of anything beyond the manifestation of this material universe. So these people think that they believe in universal energy, right? They don't believe that It's Krishna who's doing the entire universal energy or any material energy. They feel there is a energy which is from where everybody is getting energy, and that's why this whole material universe has been built. So they consider the universe to be the supreme organism or entity and worship that. The universe is also a form of the Lord, right? So everything is a form of a Lord if it contains those five elements and time and everything. But yeah, they don't consider a personality of a human being or a form, right? Or a human form or a divine form. Let's move to text 16. And after text 16 we will stop. But it is I who am the ritual, I the sacrifice, the offering to the ancestors, the healing herb, the transcendental chant. I am the butter and the fire and the offering. Let's read the purport. The Vedic sacrifice known as Jyotistoma is also Krishna, and he is also the Mahayagna mentioned in the Smriti. The oblations offered to the Pitralok or the sacrifice performed to please the Pitralok, considered as a kind of drug in the form of clarified butter, is also Krishna. The mantras chanted in this connection are also Krishna, and many other commodities made with milk products for offering in the sacrifices are also Krishna. The fire is also Krishna because fire is one of the five elements, material elements, and is therefore claimed as the separated energy of Krishna. In other words, the Vedic sacrifices recommended in the Karma Kand division of the Vedas are in total also Krishna. Or, in other words, those who are engaged in rendering devotional service unto Krishna are to be understood to have performed all the sacrifices recommended in Vedas. Let's end here with Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Let's do some Radha Jap. Radha, Shri Radha, Radha, Shri Radha, Radha, Shri Radha. Thank you.